In this chapter, we'll discuss about debt instruments. So till now we have seen shares. Shares, or also known as equity, is one of the ways in which companies borrow or raise money. We have seen banks give loans to companies, so that is one way in which companies can raise money. They can raise money from the public through issue of shares. There is another type of avenue available to companies to raise money, that is known as debt instruments. So debt means it is a loan. Okay, there is a fundamental difference between equity and debt. In case of equity, the investor is an owner. We discussed this, right? He'll get profit if the company does well. In case the company doesn't get profit and is incurring losses, he will not get any profit. So investor is like an owner. Like there is no obligation for the company to pay profits to the investor. It's at the discretion of the company. Even if the company is making profit, it need not declare dividend. There is no hard and fast rule that company has to declare dividend if it is making profit. Sometimes company don't declare profits. They might choose to reinvest the profit into say a new project. So see, investor is an owner. Remember that. Okay, he'll be having voting rights, and he will get a share in the profits should the company declare dividends. Debt instruments are different. Debt instruments are more like bank loans. Debt means the company is obligated. There is an obligation about the company to repay this borrowed amount. So there will be some interest that will be paid to the debt holder. Okay. So and there will not be any voting rights in case of debentures or these debt instruments. The investors will not be having any voting rights as in the case of shares. So investors will pay the money, the company money, and they'll get a bond or a debenture. We'll see this later. So the primary difference between debenture and bond is like debentures have no asset backing. Okay. So we have discussed banks issue various loans to companies. There are some primary security, collateral security. So there is some asset backing. So based on the asset, based on some security, banks are giving loans. In case of this in case of debentures, usually there is no asset backing. Basically, the investors go by the creditworthiness of the issuer, and they mostly are used by companies to raise short-term funds. So also government, not just companies, also government issues debt instruments. They're known as government securities, GSECs or gilts. Okay, so they're issued by RBI on behalf of the government, and they're available in a variety of maturities starting from 1 to 20 years. We'll discuss all this later. Okay, RBI conducts what is known as open market operations, and RBI will be controlling the short-term liquidity in the economy, and also if it has some target interest rate in the economy, it will do this open market operations to control the economy. All this we'll discuss when we come to economy in a later chapter. And there are other types of government securities that include inflation-linked bonds, zero coupon bonds. So all this we'll discuss. Okay, this is a separate chapter on government securities. Then there is something called subordinated debt. Subordinated debt is a debt that has a lower rank. It ranks lower than the normal loans. So it's also known as junior security, subordinated loan. So in case the borrower defaults, so creditors who own subordinated debt will not be repaid until the senior debt holders are paid in full. Okay, it's like in equity we have this preference shareholders, right? So they will be getting first priority over ordinary shareholders at the time of liquidation of the company. Similarly, in case of debt, this subordinate debt holders will be paid only after the senior debt holders are paid. Then another term you need to know is index bonds. Index bond is a bond that is linked to some index, usually the consumer price index. So what happens is say a debt instrument is offering you 8% return, but inflation is 4%. So really your net earning is just 4%. Okay, net of inflation. So this inflation index bonds will be linked to some index, say the consumer price index. So they'll provide protection to the investor should the underlying index increase. Okay, so the questions you need to be prepared here are: what is the difference between equity and debt instruments? The fundamental difference is the company has an obligation to repay the debt back to the debt holder. What's the difference between debentures and other type of bonds? What are GSECs? What is subordinated debt? And what are index bonds?